Hey everyone, I'm Miles Ellison.
And I'm Cambria Shaw. Welcome to Stay Lit.
Today we're looking closely at a really fascinating piece of writing, Susan Glaspell's play, Trifles.
It's one of those plays that really asks you to pay attention to the small things, the details often overlooked.
Definitely. It's set, the morning after a murder in this bleak farmhouse kitchen.
That's right, a really cold morning, and you've got these two groups of people who show up supposedly looking for the same thing answers.
But they go about it so differently. Our goal here is, to explore how Glaspell uses these tiny, seemingly unimportant details to
Trifles.
show us some profound truths about hidden lives, about stories that aren't usually told.
And the setting itself speaks volumes right from the start. John Wright's kitchen, gloomy, kind of abandoned feeling, and messy.
Yeah, you mentioned unwashed pans, bread left out, a dish towel just lying on the table, like time just stopped.
Precisely. It feels very abrupt.
So who arrives? We have the officials.
Right. The county attorney, George Henderson, he's younger. Then Sheriff Peters, middle-aged.
And the neighbor who found the body, Lewis Hale.
Yep. And they all come in, bundled up. It's clearly freezing, and make a beeline for the stove. Practical.
But they bring their wives, Mrs. Peters, the sheriff's wife, and Mrs. Hale.
The description of them is interesting. Mrs. Peters is slight, seems nervous. Mrs. Hale is bigger, but also looks disturbed to be there.
And they don't rush to the stove. They hang back near the door, together, a bit hesitant.
It sets up that divide immediately, doesn't it? The men's approach versus the women's.
Totally. The men are immediately focused on the investigation. The county attorney's first question is basically, has anything been touched?
Yeah. Are things just as you left them? Standard procedure, looking for evidence.
And the sheriff mentions sending someone ahead just to get a fire going.
But he told him explicitly not to touch anything except the stove. Their focus is purely on, the crime scene logistics.
Which brings us to Mr. Hale's story. He's the one who found Wright.
Right. He explains he came over the day before. He wanted to talk to John Wright about getting a party telephone line installed.
He describes knocking, getting no answer at first, the house being weirdly quiet.
Until he hears a faint, "Come in," and he finds Mrs. Wright just sitting there in the kitchen, in a rocking chair.
And her state is really unsettling. He says she looked queer, done up, just rocking and fiddling with her apron.
Yeah, pleading it. And her reaction to him, indifferent, doesn't invite him in properly, barely looks at him, just rocks.
The conversation sounds incredibly strange. He asks for John.
And she laughs, but Hale says it wasn't really a laugh, and then just says, kind of dull, that John's home.
He pushes, can I see him?
And that's when she drops it, because he's dead. And just points upstairs, flatly.
Wow. Okay, so Hale is obviously shocked.
Understandably. He calls in his neighbor, Harry, who is waiting outside. They go up together.
Find the body. Rope around the neck. Harry warns him not to touch anything.
They come back down, and Mrs. Wright, still sitting there, same way. Unconcerned, seemingly.
Harry asks her who did it.
I don't know, she says, just like that.
In the sleeping part, they ask if she was next to him.
She says yes on the inside, but claims she sleeps soundly, didn't wake up, which sounds unlikely.
Very. So Hale leaves them there to get the authorities.
And he adds this detail. After he left, she moved to a different chair, just sat with her hands together looking down, but then...
She left again
Yeah.
when he mentioned the telephone.
Yeah, and then looked scared. It's such a bizarre mix of reactions.
Okay, so Hale gives this testimony. The basic facts are out. And the men, they immediately shift to motive.
Right. They need a why. They get
Yeah.
ready to search upstairs, check the barn, look for something concrete.
And the county attorney explicitly asks the sheriff if he's sure there's nothing here in the kitchen.
Nothing important here, nothing that would point to any motive, is his question.
And the sheriff's reply is just so dismissive.
Nothing here but kitchen things. That line says it all, really. It writes off the entire domestic sphere.
Then the attorney finds those frozen fruit jars. They burst from the cold. Sticky mess.
And the women murmur something about the preserves, her hard work.
And the men just scoff. The sheriff's like, can you beat the women? Held for murder and worrying about her preserves?
Patronizing, isn't it? The county attorney adds she'll have more serious things to worry about soon.
And Mr. Hale chimes in, maybe trying to be understanding, but still. Well, women are used to worrying over trifles.
Trifles. There it is. That word really defines the conflict. What the men value versus what they dismiss.
And the dismissal continues. The attorney comments on the state of the kitchen.
Not much of a housekeeper, would you say, ladies? Just dripping with judgment.
But Mrs. Hale doesn't let it slide.
No, she pushes back. Points out how much work farming is, and adds that men's hands aren't always clean either. A little jab back.
He then asks about her relationship with Mrs. Wright, friends, neighbors.
Mrs. Hale admits she hadn't visited in ages. Says the place wasn't cheerful.
Which the attorney twists into Mrs. Wright lacking the homemaking instinct.
And Mrs. Hale cleverly suggests maybe John Wright lacked it too. Fair point.
He decides he's done with the kitchen for now. Needs to check upstairs.
But before he goes, he tells Mrs. Peters to gather some things for Minnie, but also to keep an eye out for anything that might be of use to us.
So he dismisses the kitchen, dismisses the women's concerns, but then asks one of them to search that very space for his kind of evidence.
Exactly. He's blind to the possibility that the evidence might look different from what he expects.
So the men leave. And the whole dynamic shifts. The women are alone in the kitchen.
And suddenly, they start to really look, to notice things.
Mrs. Hale is clearly annoyed by the men's attitude. She even starts tidying up the pans the lawyer moved.
It's like she's instinctively trying to restore some dignity to the space, to Minnie's work.
Mrs. Peters confirms her thought about the bread being set out to rise.
And Mrs. Hale sees the loaf half in, half out of the box. Another sign of interruption. She was going to put this in there.
They look at the broken fruit jars again, and Mrs. Hale's reaction is pure empathy.
It's a shame about her fruit. She'll feel awful bad after all her hard work. It's not just preserves, it's her labor, her care, wasted.
Mrs. Hale even sits for a second in that rocking chair, then jumps up, a physical connection to the scene.
They move into the cold front room to find clothes. Mrs. Hale examines a skirt.
And comments that John Wright was close, stingy.
And she immediately links that to Minnie's isolation. Maybe why she didn't join things, felt shabby, kept to herself.
And then that memory surfaces. Minnie Foster, years ago.
Singing in the choir, pretty clothes, lively. It's such a powerful image of who Minnie used to be.
Such a stark contrast to the woman they're discussing now.
Meanwhile, Mrs. Peters finds the apron and shawl Minnie wanted. She finds the shawl behind the stair door.
And shuts the door quickly. A small thing, but maybe the first hint of protection, concealment.
It feels like an instinctive recoil, maybe. Then
Yeah.
Mrs. Hale just asks it outright.
Do you think she did it? The big question.
Mrs. Peters is frightened.
Oh, I don't know. But Mrs. Hale finds it hard to square with the details they're seeing. The worry over the apron, the fruit, those trifles.
Seems inconsistent with a calculated killer, perhaps.
They hear the men upstairs, still searching.
Mrs. Peters mentions her husband thinks it looks bad for Minnie, especially the sleeping through it story. Henderson will mock it.
And Mrs. Hale's response is sharp. So sharp.
But I guess John Wright didn't wake when they was slipping that rope under his neck. Chilling. It flips the perspective entirely.
They talk about how strange the method was strangling.
Yeah, when there was a gun right there in the house. It doesn't make immediate sense. It feels more personal, maybe.
Mrs. Peters reiterates what Henderson needs. A motive, something clear. Anger, sudden feeling.
So Mrs. Hale looks around again, searching the kitchen for those signs, sees the half-wiped table, another task interrupted mid-flow.
She voices her discomfort with the whole situation, locking Minnie up, then poking around her house.
Trying to get her own house to turn against her, it feels like a violation.
Mrs. Peters falls back on duty. The law is the law. But you feel her conflict.
Definitely. Then she finds the quilt pieces Minnie was working on.
Log cabin pattern, bright colors, they look at the sewing.
And they start discussing whether she planned to quilt it or not it, a seemingly mundane detail.
Right when the men come back down.
And they overhear this and laugh.
They wonder if she was going to quilt it or just knot it.
Hmm.
Total mockery of their focus.
The county attorney mentions their search upstairs was basically useless, so they decide to check the barn.
Leaving the women again. And Mrs. Hale voices that resentment, that defense of their attention to detail.
I don't know if there's anything so strange or taking up our time with little things while we're waiting for them to get the evidence. She gets it. These are the evidence.
They examine the quilt more closely now.
And Mrs. Hale finds it. One block sewn. Badly. All over the place. Not like the others.
As if she didn't know what she was about. A sign of agitation, distress.
They look at each other. A shared understanding clicks into place. And then Mrs. Hale does something significant.
She pulls out one of the bad stitches. Deliberately.
Mrs. Peters is alarmed. I don't think we ought to touch things.
But Mrs. Hale just brushes it off. Bad sewing always made me fidgety. Covering her tracks. Protecting Minnie.
She wonders aloud what could have made Minnie so nervous. Mrs. Peters suggests maybe just being tired, trying to normalize it.
Then looking for wrapping paper, Mrs. Peters makes another discovery.
Why, here's a birdcage. In the cupboard. Empty.
Mrs. Hale remembers someone selling canaries cheap last year. She doesn't know if Minnie bought one, but...
She adds that crucial line. Minnie used to sing real pretty herself. The connection is immediate.
Mrs. Peters thinks it's odd, a bird here. But the cage suggests there was one. What happened to it?
Mrs. Hale guesses maybe the cat got it.
But Mrs. Peters remembers Minnie was scared of cats. So probably not the cat.
Then they notice the cage door. It's broken.
Yeah, one hinge is pulled apart. Looks as if someone must have been rough with it. Violence directed at the cage or the bird.
This broken cage, it's such a potent image of confinement, of something precious being damaged.
Mrs. Hale says it plainly. I don't like this place. The atmosphere is oppressive.
Mrs. Peters admits she's glad Mrs. Hale is there with her. They're drawing closer.
And Mrs. Hale expresses this deep regret, wishing she'd visited more.
She admits she stayed away because it wasn't cheerful, a lonesome place. She regrets abandoning Minnie Foster.
She has this moment of insight. How things can be for women. Shared struggles, even live separately. Different kind of the same thing.
Mrs. Peters tries to comfort her. Don't reproach yourself.
But Mrs. Hale keeps thinking about Minnie's life. No kids. Quiet house. John Wright being. Well, what was he like?
Mrs. Peters only knew him from town. Heard he was a good man, in that narrow public sense.
Mrs. Hale agrees, technically good. Paid his debts, didn't drink. But
A hard man. That's her assessment. Like a raw wind that gets to the bone. Someone who chills the life out of things.
in looking at the cage, she concludes Minnie would have wanted a bird. Needed something bright, alive. What happened to it?
Mrs. Peters suggests maybe it just died. As she says it, she swings the broken cage door, unconsciously mimicking the violence.
Mrs. Hale remembers Mrs. Peters is newer to the area. Didn't know Minnie Foster back when.
Back when she was kind of like a bird herself, real sweet and pretty, but kind of timid and fluttery, and she trails off. How she did change.
She suggests taking the quilt pieces to Minnie in jail. Something to occupy her mind.
And while looking for patches in the sewing basket, she finds it. A small, fancy box.
She opens it. There's a small.
Mrs. Peters leans in, then pulls back, repulsed.
Mrs. Hale lifts a piece of silk inside the box.
And they see it, the dead canary.
Mrs. Peters whispers, "It's the bird."
Mrs. Hale points, "Look at its neck. It's all other side too."
Twisted. Broken.
And Mrs. Peters understands instantly. The horror dawns. Somebody wrung its neck.
That's the moment. The motive. The final straw. The connection between the bird's fate and John Wright's. It clicks.
And just then, footsteps outside. The men are coming back.
Without a word, Mrs. Hale quickly shoves the box under the quilt pieces, hiding it. The men enter. The county attorney is still oblivious, making light conversation.
Well, ladies, have you decided whether she was going to quilt it or not it? Still focused on your trifles.
And Mrs. Peters, finding her voice, answers carefully, loaded with meaning.
What do you think she was going to knot it? Knot it, like the rope, like the tension, like the finality.
He notices the cage then. Has the bird flown? He jokes.
Mrs. Hale doubles down on the cover story, hiding the box better. We think the cat got it.
He asks if they even have a cat. Mrs. Peters says, no, not now. Mentions superstition. Deflecting.
The attorney reports his findings, or lack thereof, from upstairs. No sign of forced entry. Their own rope. Still no clear motive. He wants to look again.
As the men go upstairs one more time, the women sit in silence for a moment, processing, navigating this new moral ground.
Mrs. Hale confirms their understanding. Minnie loved the bird, planned to bury it nicely. It meant something.
And then Mrs. Peters shares something personal, a memory of her kitten being killed by a boy when she was young.
Her intense anger. If they hadn't held me back, I would have hurt him. She understands that surge of feeling, that breaking point. It connects her directly to Minnie's probable state.
And Mrs. Hale puts it all together. The bird, Minnie's silence, Wright's hardness.
He wouldn't have liked singing. He killed that too. Killed her spirit long before the bird.
Mrs. Peters, still torn, pushes back weakly. We don't know who killed the bird. We don't know who killed him, trying to maintain legal uncertainty.
But Mrs. Hale focuses on the brutal parallel. His neck choked the life out of him. Hand on the cage, the connection is undeniable to her.
She imagines the silence after the bird was gone, the stillness, especially after years and years of nothing.
And Mrs. Peters connects again. She knows that stillness. From losing her first child out on the prairie, another shared female trauma understood without explanation.
Still, the law hangs there. The law has got to punish crime, Mrs. Peters insists, perhaps trying to convince herself to.
But Mrs. Hale broadens the definition of crime, not just the killing, but the slow crushing of Minnie's life.
I wish you'd seen Minnie Foster, she says. That constant refrain. She calls the isolation, the loss of self, a crime, and asks, who's going to punish that? She takes responsibility, too, for not being a better neighbor.
She sees the broken fruit jar again, tells Mrs. Peters to tell Minnie it's okay, maybe take her an unbroken one.
She may never know whether it was broke or not, protecting her even from small sadnesses now.
Mrs. Peters wraps the jar, nervously making light of it, that false voice.
Saying how the men would laugh if they knew they were bothered by a dead canary.
Yeah.
As if that could have anything to do with... She can't even finish the thought.
They hear the men returning. Mrs. Hale murmurs, finishing the thought, maybe they would, maybe they wouldn't. The gap between their worlds.
The county attorney comes in, summing up his frustration to the sheriff. Everything's clear except the motive.
He notes how juries are tricky with women without some definite thing, something to show, something to make a story about, a thing that would connect up with this strange way of doing it. He's literally describing what the women found, and he can't see it.
The women just look at each other. That silent acknowledgement.
Mr. Hale comes in from outside. The attorney decides to stay, sends the sheriff off. He asks if he should check what Mrs. Peters is taking.
He picks up the apron, laughs again. Not very dangerous, he scoffs. Moves the quilt pieces, nearly exposing the box, but misses it.
He trusts Mrs. Peters because a sheriff's wife is married to the law.
And her quiet reply is so powerful, not just that way. Her loyalty isn't that simple anymore.
The men head off to check the windows, the attorney's still dismissing potential clues. Oh, windows.
As they leave the room, Mrs. Hale gives Mrs. Peters a look, pointing with her eyes to the hidden box.
Mrs. Peters panics slightly, tries to put it in her bag too big, opens it, tries to take the bird out, but can't touch it. She's frozen.
The doorknob turns. The men are coming back.
Mrs. Hale reacts instantly, snatches the box, hides it deep in her own coat pocket, just in time.
The county attorney enters, still stuck on the quilt, still condescending. Well, Henry, at least we found out that she was not going to quilt it. She was going to, what does you call it, ladies?
And Mrs. Hale, hand protectively over her pocket, delivers the final line, calmly, firmly.
We call it not it, Mr. Henderson.
And that's it. Using the language of those dismissed trifles to signal their shared secret, their act of resistance, their judgment, the curtain falls.
It's just incredibly powerful, isn't it? How the play completely flips the script on what matters, who knows things.
Absolutely. The men have the official power, the legal framework. They look for fingerprints, forced entry, obvious motives. But they are completely blind to the emotional reality contained within that kitchen.
Because they dismiss it all as kitchen things, as trifles.
While the women, operating from shared experience and empathy, read those very trifles like a book. The messy kitchen, the erratic sewing, the broken
The
cage, the
kitchen
dead bird.
itself, this whole domestic sphere, it becomes this powerful symbol, doesn't it?
It really does. Its messiness, the coldness. It feels like it mirrors Minnie's own state, maybe her trapped life, her isolation in that house and her marriage.
And think about those jars of fruit preserves. They found them frozen, shattered jars all over. All that work, putting things by for the future, just gone, wasted.
Broken. Like her hopes, maybe, her efforts to create something good in that house.
Precisely. Broken hopes, broken labor. And then there's her sewing basket. They find it, and she was working out a quilt. Most of the stitches are neat, quite careful actually. But then there's this one section.
It's just a mess, isn't it? Uneven, frantic stitches.
Yeah, that uneven stitching is such a clear visual of her state of mind, her nervousness, the turmoil she must have been feeling. And what's really telling is how the men react when they overhear the women talking about it. Debating if she was going to quilt it or just not it.
They laugh. They actually laugh at that.
They do, quilt it or not it, as if it's the most ridiculous, trivial thing. They can't even grasp the difference, let alone see how this craft, this detail could mean anything.
It just perfectly shows that gap, that gulf between their world and the women's understanding. And Mrs. Hale, she quietly starts pulling out those bad stitches. It's like this protective act, isn't it? Smoothing over the signs of distress.
And deeper in the cupboard, they find an empty bird cage, a symbol of confinement, obviously. But the detail, the door hinge is broken, pulled apart. It suggests it was handled roughly, forced open, maybe?
Which leads to the most crucial discovery. Inside a pretty box, wrapped carefully in silk, the dead canary.
And its neck is, well, it's broken, twisted, it was strangled. This is the symbol that just unlocks everything. It mirrors how John Wright died, strangled in his bed, but it represents so much more, doesn't it?
It's Minnie's own voice, her spirit, her joy. Mrs. Hale remembers her as Minnie Foster, the girl who used to sing in the choir, so lively. The bird was a thing that sang.
And John Wright, the hard man, he apparently killed that too. Hated noise, hated singing. He silenced the bird, just like he silenced her spirit over the years.
So these symbols found in the so-called trifles, they connect directly to these really powerful themes in the play, like the loneliness, the crushing isolation of Minnie Wright's life.
That definitely. John Wright is described as a hard man, like a raw wind. He didn't just isolate her physically on that farm. He stifled her emotionally, spiritually.
And the theme of gender roles, the patriarchy, it's just unavoidable. The men, stuck in their official ways, looking outward, they completely miss the meaning embedded in the domestic space.
They literally dismiss the women's insights found in women's things as irrelevant trifles. It makes you ask, who decides what counts as evidence? What information do we ignore just because of where it comes from or who finds it?
Which leads right into that theme of female solidarity. Mrs. Hale and Mrs. Peters, they start off maybe not knowing each other well, but they bond through understanding Minnie's probable suffering. They see echoes of their own lives, perhaps.
Yeah, that shared understanding leads them to this silent pact, this alliance. They decide together to protect Minnie by hiding the evidence in the bird, the box.
And this raises huge questions about justice, doesn't it? Legal justice versus maybe a moral justice. Mrs. Peters remembers the law requires punishment for murder.
But Mrs. Hale points out the crime committed against Minnie's spirit, asking, who's going to punish that? It's a powerful moment.
Even her name, Minnie Wright, carries weight. Minnie, it sounds small, diminutive, suggesting how she was maybe seen or made to feel insignificant.
And Wright is just dripping with irony, right? Echoing Wright and Wright, when her life with him was anything but fair or just.
Then you have the contrast. Minnie Foster versus Minnie Wright. Foster suggests growth, nurturing, life, maybe like that young singing girl.
While Wright feels like constraint, duty, maybe even being made right or proper within marriage, losing her identity, the name change itself tells a story.
So in the end, they stick to their silent pact, they hide the bird box, and when the men come back in, still kind of condescending about the quilt.
The women give this really simple, dismissive answer. echoing the men's own trivializing attitude. They just say she was gonna not it.
Not it. Effectively closing the case themselves, hiding the truth right there in the domestic details the men couldn't see.
Those trifles held the entire story. The motive, the emotional truth, everything.
It really makes you stop and think, doesn't it, about what we might be overlooking in our own lives or when we try to understand other people.
Yeah, what important details are we missing because they're in spaces or come from people that society tends to dismiss or not take seriously?
How much more might we see if we just shifted our perspective, looked a bit closer, beyond the obvious? What different truths might emerge? It's worth remembering Glaspell wrote this based on a real case she covered as a reporter. It came from observing that dynamic in reality. It makes it even more resonant.
It really stands as this early, powerful feminist statement about whose knowledge counts, whose perspective is valid. The trifles weren't trivial at all. They were everything.
They held the entire story, missed by those in charge.
It definitely leaves you thinking. What details do we brush aside in our own lives? What are the trifles we don't pay attention to personally or culturally that might actually hold the key to understanding something much bigger?
What stories are hidden in plain sight, just waiting for someone to notice the small things? A really profound question to carry away.
I hope you're enjoying our series, Stay Lit.